Alright, so we're gonna hold for here a few moments, to let everybody get logged in. We apologize, working with what we got. I'm gonna go back a little. Such a long delay. It's through the app.
No, it's on the channel.
No, it's through the app.
Come look at this. It's on the end. You know
Alright, we apologize for the inconvenience. We pray that you are logged back on. Rome. So Rome had governors and they had procurators. And they were supposed to keep order throughout the provinces of Rome. In Israel, it was important that they keep order because the ones who were set in place by the Caesars, if they didn't keep order, it would be like a death sentence, right? So Pilate, we're going to go Matthew the 27th chapter. We're going to start again at verse 15. Matthew 27, we're going to start at verse 15. Okay? All right, let's read.
Matthew chapter 27, verse 15. Now, at that feast the governor was wont to release unto the people a prisoner whom they would.
All right, so we explained earlier that this was the Passover, and during the Passover, the Pilate would release one prisoner, 16.
And they had then a notable prisoner called Barabbas. Therefore, when they were gathered together, Pilate said unto them, Whom will ye that I release unto you, Barabbas or Yeshua, which is called a Mashiach?
Mm-hmm.
For he knew that for envy they had delivered him.
Right, so Pilate knew that they had some kind of jealousy against Yeshua because there was nothing that they can do. There was nothing to convict Yeshua on. So they knew that he was they were jealous or something like that. Verse 19.
Verse 19. When he was set down on the judgment seat, his wife sent unto him, saying, Have thou nothing to do with that just man? For I have suffered many things this day, and a dream because of him.
Verse 20.
But the chief priests and elders persuaded the multitude that they should ask Barabbas and destroy Yeshua. Verse 21. The governor answered and said unto them, Whether of the twain will you that I release unto you? They said Barabbas.
So Pilate said a second time, Who do you want me to release? This man is innocent. The one thing about Rome is that if you were innocent of things, then a lot of times they didn't scourge you or anything like that. Unless they were looking to conquer your nation. Then, of course, they just killed everybody. But once they conquered the area, everything was under Roman rule. And under Roman rule, you just don't go and kill people. You have to have trials and everything like that. Kind of like how our court system is set up. Okay? Next verse, 22.
Verse 22. Pilate said unto them, What shall I do then with Yeshua, which is called Mashiach? They all say unto him, Let him be crucified.
23.
And the governor said, Why, what evil hath he done? But they cried out the more, saying, Let him be crucified.
Now understand, Pilate was under extreme pressure at this time because of the fact that all the uprisings that were going on in Judea, that the Caesar would not allow for that to continue. Caesar wanted order throughout his entire territory. So if there was reports going back to Caesar that there was these uprisings that are going on, Caesar would stop it. If he had to send a couple thousand of troops, he will stop it. Okay? Likewise, Paul, the same thing happened to Paul. Paul was opposed by his own people. So the same thing happened to Paul. So we're going to go to Acts the 17th chapter. And this was in Thessalonica. Acts 17, and we're going to start at verse 1. Acts 17 and 1. Okay? Acts 17 and 1. Alright, let's read.
Acts chapter 17, verse 1. Now when they had passed through
Amphipolis
and Apollonia, they came to Thessalonica, where was a synagogue of the Israelites. And Paul, as his manner was, went in unto them, and 3 Sabbath days reasoned with them out of the Scriptures.
Yes. Verse 3.
Verse 3. Opening and alleging that a Mashiach must needs have suffered and risen again from the dead, and that this Yeshua whom I preach unto you is a Mashiach.
4.
And some of them believed, and consorted with Paul and Silas, and of the devout Greeks a great multitude, and of the chief women not a few. Verse 5. But the Israelites which believed not, moved with envy, took on them certain lewd fellows of the baser sort, and gathered a company, and set all the city on an uproar, and assaulted the house of Jason,
Yes.
and sought to bring them out to the people.
Verse 6.
And when they found them not, they drew Jason and certain brethren unto the rulers of the city, crying, that these have turned the world upside down, are come hither also.
Alright, so they went and assaulted of the house of Jason. Jason is kind of important. Probably, I don't know if you even know who Jason is, but Jason was Paul's cousin. Let's get Romans 16:21 real quick. Okay, and get Romans 16:21. So if you look on your Strong's Concordance, you put in Jason. Jason was Paul's cousin. Read Romans 16:21.
Romans chapter 16, verse 21. Timotheus, my work fellow, and Lucius, and Jason, and Sosipater, my kinsmen, salute you.
All right, so Jason was a cousin of Paul, right? Let's go back to Acts and pick it up at verse 7.
chapter 17, verse 7, whom Jason hath received, and these all do contrary to the decrees of Caesar, saying that there is another king, one Yeshua.
All right, so you got the Israelites. You have these Israelites, right? And they were saying that, wait a minute, this guy is teaching contrary to what Caesar teaches. Caesar is the only king. So they're teaching another king, which was treason in the Roman Empire. Next verse.
Verse 8. And they troubled the people and the rulers of the city when they heard these things. And when they had taken security of Jason and of the other, they let them go.
Right. Okay. So it was contrary. Again, it was treason to teach of any other king other than Caesar. Okay.
Who made that rule?
Caesar did.
Exactly.
Right? So it was treason. Paul was arrested then by Roman authorities, and he used his Roman status to gain an apology. So Paul used his Roman status whenever he could use his Roman status. Okay? That's why he was able to go on these missionary trips, which was very, very important. Now we're going to find out later that missionary trips are, we'll find out. Let's go Acts 16. Acts 16, and we're going to start at verse 35. And this is why Paul was so important, because Paul can spread the gospel, and he can travel from place to place in these Gentile areas and not be concerned about being arrested. If it was Peter or John or any of the other 12, they couldn't travel like Paul did. They were restricted. But Paul was able to travel, and I think he had 3 missionaries throughout all of Asia Minor. Okay, that he was able to go ahead and he was able to spread the gospel. That's why that's one of the reasons why Yeshua chose him. Okay? Acts 16, and we're going to start at verse 35. Okay, let's read.
Acts chapter 16, verse 35. And it was day. The magistrate sent the surgeons, saying, let those men go. And the keeper of the prison told this saying to Paul, the magistrate has sent to let you go. Now therefore depart, and go in peace.
Yes.
But Paul said unto them, they have beaten us openly uncondemned, being Romans, and have cast us into prison. And now do they thrust us out privily? Nay, verily. But let them come themselves and fetch us out.
See, Paul had a mouth, right? This mouthpiece that he had, he was using it for Yeshua now. So Paul is saying, wait a minute, no, these people are not going to get away with beating us for nothing.
They're not going to go away quietly.
Correct. Verse 38.
And the surgeons told these words unto the magistrates, and they feared when they heard that they were Romans.
That's once again, when you are a Roman citizen, you have privilege. Paul had privilege, and Paul used it. There's nothing wrong with him using his Roman status. There's nothing wrong with that, because he got a lot accomplished by using his Roman status. He didn't use his Roman status out of pride, out of chest puffing or anything like that. He used his Roman status so that he can continue the work of Yeshua. And sometimes we have to use whatever it is that we have to continue to work for Yeshua. And that's what Paul did. 39.
Verse 39. And they came and besought them, and brought them out, and desired them to depart out of the city. And when they went out of the prison, and entered into the house of Lydia, and when they had seen the brethren, they comforted them, and departed.
Right. These people wanted to hurry up and get them out. Because if the Roman soldiers, if they would have went to the Roman soldiers and said, hey, they beat us for no reason, the Roman soldiers would have turned that place out quickly. They would have came in and they would have probably killed everybody that was in there because you did not touch a Roman citizen. So, ultimately, Paul would appeal to Caesar. This Caesar was Nero. Right? Let's go to Acts 26 and 21.
While we're getting that, ARW says, so elder question, this brings to ask this. If you have been a part of something that will allow you to go where others can't go, to give the word and the truth, even though that you are not a part anymore, can you use this to your advantage to help others that do not know the truth, like being a spy, someone to give the truth to those that need to know the truth?
Yes, you can. I don't know about being you wouldn't be a spy, but yes, you can. You can use whatever. Let's just say if a certain country had martial law, but they allowed a certain individual passage to the different states, right? So this person who was allowed passage through the different states, even though there is martial law going on, this person is still using his credentials to go from state to state to still bring forth the word. And that's what Paul was doing. Rome, regardless how we say it, Rome had the entire, what they thought was the known world under martial law.
Well, we have to know one very, very important thing here. The Apostle Paul was given this assignment by Yeshua. So you don't lean to your own understanding and start going out trying to do stuff, because you're not going to be covered. You know? So you have to make sure that this assignment was given to you by the Holy Spirit from Yeshua, because if you're not covered, you're going out doing some stuff leaning to your own understanding. Like we saw that thing where this guy was well, you just said it. He was what was the Apostle Paul at first? When they go and spread the word. Missionary. So he went over to we saw it. It was a true story. He went over to some country in Africa. He became a Christian. And he said he was going to bring the word to the people back in the jungle that didn't know the scriptures. But this certain tribe ate people.
Yeah.
And he went.
Oh, it was India, I think.
India. But this man has never been heard of before. Yeshua ain't sent that man over there. That's why that man has not been heard of since.
Right. There's a little snippet that I have on missionaries. Okay. On who originated missionaries. Right? So they called Paul trips missionary trips, but they were not missionary trips.
No.
Okay, missionary is something different, which we're going to briefly point out later. Yes.
So apostles are the one that go and start churches.
The gift of an apostle is one who goes and starts church.
Okay, because that's what they try and say that's what missionaries are supposed to kind of do.
Right, but
it's wrong.
Missionaries are a little different.
You want to be a missionary when you're young.
All right, Acts 26 and 21. All right, let's read that.
Acts chapter 26, verse 21. For these causes the Israelites caught me in the temple and went about to kill me.
Right, so the Roman authorities demanded absolute allegiance to Rome first and foremost.
There you go.
100% allegiance to Rome. Because the Israelites' long-standing monotheism, which is the worship of one God, they were exempt from offering sacrifices to the emperor. Right? So they didn't have to do that because Rome was allowable in saying that you guys can do whatever you want as long as you pledge allegiance to Rome first and foremost and don't cause any disruption. If you don't cause any disruption, we could care less on what you sacrifice. We could care less on your temple. We could care less on anything. But when you start speaking out against Rome, that's when they care.
Yeah, Instacart said the Jesuits were demon missionaries.
Yes, and I got a quote from somebody about the Jesuits coming up later. All right, in 70 AD, the Roman Emperor General Titus destroyed Jerusalem, destroyed the temple, and he fulfilled Yeshaya's, what Yeshaya said. We're going to go to Luke 21 and 6, and we're going to come back to Luke 21 a little later. Luke 21 and 6.
And these people had I'm telling you, they had schizophrenia. They were crazy.
A lot of the emperors were kind of nuts. There was a couple that weren't. There was a couple that weren't. There was a couple that, you know, they were emperors, right? They were just like kings. There was a couple of them. But some of them didn't live that long, so you can't really say that they were nuts. Others lived quite a while, and you knew that they were nuts. Claudius, not Claudius, Caligula, oh, he was a pervert, and he was nuts. Nero, he was wackadoodle, right? Some of them were, and they were very dangerous. Because like I said with Nero, that woman was singing better than him, and he had her executed. There was another woman who brought him some food, and because the seasoning was too much, he had her head chopped off. You didn't want to deal with Nero, but Paul did deal with Nero on one occasion. Let's see your hand, yeah.
So were the Romans like a certain nation where you know how it says that you have to pledge allegiance to their nation?
No, you didn't have to pledge allegiance to their nation. The Romans were more or less, you do whatever you do, as long as you don't speak against the empire. They didn't say you had to pledge allegiance to Rome and all that. All that stuff in the movies is garbage. It's not real.
So what she's asking is, how did the Apostle Paul become a Roman citizen?
Yeah. Was he like born into?
It was born.
He was a Benjamite.
Yeah, he was a Benjamite, but he got Roman status through.
I don't know if they really say anything. Who taught?
No, it was through. Who's the guy who taught Paul?
I forgot his name.
Gamaliel. It was through Gamaliel. When Paul was younger, that's how he obtained citizenship from Rome. It was through Gamaliel. I'm trying to think.
So like here in the United States, he was his sponsor, like to get him.
No, he wasn't a sponsor. There was no sponsorships in Rome.
So I know what you're saying. So it's like
I can't remember how Paul got citizenship, but it was through Galilee. It was through the teachings. I don't remember.
So it could have been something like this guy noticed that Paul was smart as a young boy, or he noticed him somehow, and he decided that he was going to teach him, or something like that.
People lost in Rome, so that's all.
No, not the laws of Rome. Gamaliel was a Pharisee. He was one of the top Pharisees. So Paul was not being taught the laws of Rome. Paul was being taught the laws of Israel. Paul didn't need to learn the laws of Rome until he got Roman citizenship. And I believe he could be from one of his parents. I'm not for sure. I'm not for sure.
That would be something interesting to look up.
How Paul got Roman citizenship?
Yeah.
Sure. All right, so the three Roman emperors that are mentioned in the Bible itself: Augustus, which we've already read scriptures in connection with Joseph and Mary. Tiberius, we're going to go to Luke the 3rd chapter. Tiberius was emperor when John the Baptist started his ministry. Okay, so Tiberius is mentioned in Luke 3, and we're going to read verses 1 and 2. All right, let's read.
Luke chapter 3, verse 1. Now in the 15th year of the reign of Tiberius Caesar, Pontius Pilate being governor of Judea, and Herod being tetrarch of Galilee, and his brother Philip tetrarch of Iturea, and of the legion of Trachonius, and Lysanias, the tetrarch of Abilene.
What did you say? Verse 2.
Luke chapter 3, verse 2. Ananias and Caiaphas, being the high priest, the word of the Most High came unto John, the son of Zacharias, in the wilderness.
All right, Caiaphas. All right, so it was something. Yeah, it's Caiaphas. All right, we get used to that because we're going to have him next week. All right, so Tiberius Caesar, that's what I'm getting at, right? Claudius is also mentioned in Scripture. And we're going to go to Acts 18 and 1. Claudius was the one who expelled all the Israelites out of Rome and out of Athens. Okay? Let's go to Acts 18 and 1. And let's read.
Acts chapter 18, verse 1. After these things, Paul departed from Athens and came to Corinth.
Corinth is a city in what you call Turkey now. All right? It was called Asia Minor back then. So Claudius decided he wanted all the Israelites, everyone who was Israel, out of Rome. He wanted them out of Athens. He didn't want to have to deal with any of them. Put them back in their land. Okay? Summary. The Roman Empire had an impact regarding Yeshua's birth. They also had an impact on Yeshua's crucifixion. Okay? They had an impact on Yeshua's birth because of the fact that if the decree didn't go out, then how was he going to get to Bethlehem? Because they didn't travel then. It was martial law. They had to have certain papers in order to go from, let's say, from Nazareth to Bethlehem. It had to be approved by the emperor or by the governor of that region. And if it was not approved, they did not travel. So because this census went out, everyone was free to go back to their native or their homeland, wherever their lineage is,
Where they were born, yeah.
in order to be counted up.
So, as modern day, AKA passport.
Correct.
That's all it is.
Correct. But a little different
Some
because,
people say passport.
right, it's a little different because if you were found on the road and you did not have papers,
Oh, yeah.
you were killed. Yes.
Paul was reading Acts 22 and 3. That's how Paul, he was a citizen because he was born in a Roman city.
Oh, okay. Okay. So that's how you became a Roman citizen.
So it's like if you're Issachar from Mexico,
but your children are born in the United States.
So your children is born, yeah, so they become citizens of the United. Oh, they had that law back then?
Yeah, Rome just extended from the United States. All right, so let's get a timeline of the start of the Roman Empire. 498 BC, Persia invades Greece.
I need to write these dates down, write these down.
And when Persia invaded Greece, that started a whole chain of events, right? In 498 to 448 was the Greco-Persian Wars. The wars between Persia and the wars between Persia and Greece. At that time, Xerxes was there. The Persian invasion of Greece, that happened during the rule of Darius. Darius eventually got killed. Then the other kings after that started the Greco-Persian Wars, which we talked about a couple of weeks ago when we talked about the Persian captivity. We talked about it briefly when we talked about the Greek captivity. Yes.
Was our people, the Israelites, were we at a world power? Was the last time with David or Solomon?
The last time Israel was a world power was with David. Yes.
You don't think so
With Solomon as well, but there's a thing with Solomon, because at the end of Solomon's reign, there was civil war with Israel. So during his reign, yes, but I'm saying not really. I would say more with David, because we were united with David. With Solomon, we started off being united, but Solomon started to fade off with the women, and that caused uprisings and civil war. And then once that civil war happened, Israel was no longer a power.
Dad Issachar says, a lot of these Caesars were terrified of the emperors because they were crazy. And for the coons, Paul doesn't justify you having allegiance or more pride in the country than a higher. Our only allegiance, I'm thinking I'm saying it right, is to a higher, and we can use whatever resources we need here as long as it doesn't compromise or contradict a higher laws.
Correct. The only thing is that the Caesars weren't afraid of anybody.
So what was the difference between the Caesars and the emperors?
They're the same person. Caesar and emperor were the same person. Caesars weren't afraid of anybody. The Senate that was created, it was kind of like the United States government today. You had the Caesar who was president, even though I'm not going to say that. You had Caesar and you had the Senate. They had checks and balances. The Senate would check to make sure that Caesar was doing what he was supposed to do, even though Caesar wasn't really afraid of the Senate. He still had, most of them still had respect for the Senate. A lot of them didn't have respect for the Senate. It's kind of like today with the checks and balances between the president and the Senate and the House of Representatives and the judicial system. It's kind of like the same thing, but it's a little different because Caesar was not ruled by any 13 families.
I was just going to say is that they all family anyway. They all cousins.
It's a little different though.
12 once removed, 12 removed. They all are family.
But it's a little different though, because when a president starts to speak out, they take him out. Even though it's rare.
But it's still their family member.
Yeah, but still,
it's like
it's different. But Rome was different. It's not like what America is.
No, it's not.
Because if the Caesar said, okay, you three in the Senate, you guys I don't like you, you're going to die. I'm going to kill you. The Senate, you have to understand, the Senate had power, but they did not have power to do anything outside of the Caesar. Now the Senate, they spoke against Caesars a lot. But at the same time, they knew not to raise their hand to Caesar. It's not like it is like over here in America.
So ARW says, Elder, how was King James empowered in England after Solomon? How did he rule in England and in Europe?
We have a teaching that we're going to be doing about Africa. After the in between the testaments, we're going to bring up King James. Where's my list? I don't know where my list is now, but we have in between the testaments, then we have the early church, and then we have the era of King James. We're gonna discuss Israel and what is called the Moors. We're gonna have that teaching in about 3 weeks. So we'll get an understanding on how King James and how the Moors came to power in England and in other parts of the world, when in fact they tell us that no, they were all white men. So we're going to have that a little later. Excuse me, still doing research on that now. All right, let's get back to the timeline. We talked about the Greco-Persian Wars. The death of Philip was 336, and then Alexander the Great begins his conquest in 334. 334 was the Battle of Garnatius, Icus, Arbelia, and then comes the death of Alexander in 323. Greece then is the world power in 146. So this list here are the emperors of Rome. And these are the emperors of Rome during the New Testament. Okay? Because the New Testament was written up until, I believe, 91 AD with Revelation and Revelation and John, which we got some information about that also. Augustus was the first emperor, not Julius Caesar. Then you had Tiberius, Gaius. Then you had a whack job, Claudius. Then you had Nero, another whack job. Then you had Iulius Benedict. Then you had Claudius Macer. Then you had Galba. These emperors didn't last long because they were executed. They were murdered. Nicodus, then you had Othello, then Vitellius, then you had Vespasian, which we're going to talk about in a moment. After Vespasian, you had Titus. After Titus, Domitian. Then you had Saturnius, Nevada, and then Trajan. There's some interesting information on Trajan, but I think I'm going to hold that off. Until next week.
And why are we going to do that?
Because I'm going to hold it off until next week. All right, Julius Caesar. His real name was Gaius Julius Caesar, and he was a Roman general, and he played a critical role in the transformation of the Roman Republic, which became the Roman Empire. So before the Roman Empire, it was called the Republic. And the Republic was only Italy and the northern part of Italy, and that was it. Julius Caesar. Right after Julius Caesar, you had Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus.
This is really important. You all need to pay attention. And
So
write
he
this
was the
down.
emperor. He was the first emperor of the Roman Empire. He ruled from 27 BC until his death in 14 AD. So he was the one who ruled at the time of the birth of John the Baptist. He also ruled at the time of the birth of Yeshua. And the reason how he became emperor is because his father, in his will and testament, said that my son would be the next emperor. Okay? Skip a few moments and then you get Claudius. We're going to go to Acts 11. So he succeeded in 41 AD, and he was one who invaded Britain. And let's see something in Scripture with Claudius, yes.
So when Julius ruled, it started from Italy, North Italy, and then they expanded, and then he's in charge and now they're expanding more?
No, Julius Caesar had Italy, which that's where Rome is, and the northern part of Italy. That's it. He did not start to expand in the kingdom. He built Israel. Wow. He built Rome from the inside. The expansion of the Roman Empire didn't happen until after his death.
So he had, you know how before a nation could rise up to take over, they have to become strong.
They have to build the infrastructure. That's what Julius Caesar, and to a certain degree, well, that's what Julius Caesar did. Now, with Augustus, that's when they went out. They have already conquered Greece at this moment. So they had Greece too. But they kind of went out with Augustus. And that's when they started conquering the known world. 136 BC, I believe, is the height of the Roman Empire at that point, I believe. About 136. Let's go to Acts 11 and 27. Acts 11, we're going to read 27 to 30. Okay, let's read that.
Acts chapter 11, verse 27. And in these days came prophets from Jerusalem unto Antioch. And there stood up one of them named Agabus, and signified by the Spirit that there should be great dearth throughout all the world, which came to pass in the days of Claudius Caesar.
That dearth is famine. It was a great famine that happened during the reign of Claudius Caesar. 29.
Then the disciples, every man according to his ability, determined to send relief unto the brethren which dwelt in Judea, which also they did, and sent it to the elders by the hands of Barnabas and Saul.
Barnabas and Saul, right? So there was a great famine, and sure.
So the Romans was at the famine, or was our people?
Those are people in the famine.
And they sent food by...
Rome.
Wait, what? They sent food by
Let's
Rome.
read the scripture again.
Acts chapter 11, verse 27. And in these days came prophets from Jerusalem unto Antioch.
Jerusalem to Antioch. Antioch is a city in Asia Minor. Next verse.
And there stood up one of them named Agabus, and signified by the Spirit that there should be great dearth throughout all the world, which came to pass in the days of Claudius Caesar.
All right, so this prophet was speaking and saying that there's going to be a great famine during the days of Claudius Caesar. Right? Next verse.
Verse 29.
So basically, this prophecy that was being said had not came to pass yet. Okay? Next verse. I'm just mentioning Claudius Caesar because Claudius Caesar is mentioned in Scripture. That's why I'm bringing out the Scripture. I'm not showing that there was a famine in Israel and Claudius Caesar had something to do with it. It's just saying that this guy was prophesying that in the days of Claudius Caesar, there's going to be a great famine.
Right.
29.
Then the disciples, every man according to his ability, determined to send relief unto the brethren which dwelt in Judea. Which also they did, and sent it to the elders by the hands of Barnabas and Saul.
Right, so all I'm doing is just bringing up the scripture that has Claudius Caesar to show that the Bible is a history book. Okay? Nero. Nero, we all know that he set aflame to Rome. That he caused Rome to set the fire. But he also set Troy on fire as well. And guess who he blamed? Israelites. He blamed the Israelites for burning not only Rome, but setting a fire to Troy as well. But really, he was the one who set the fires, not him personally. He didn't go out and start lighting. No. He gave a decree secretively to set them on fire because he wanted to see Rome burn while people were playing musical instruments. It was for his entertainment.
No, it went a little deeper than that. He felt he was a god, and he wanted to rebuild, redecorate, and they wouldn't allow him just do it. So he caused that destruction because what he was going to do is build up places and idols of himself throughout. So it was crazy. He thought he was God.
Yeah. So, but while the cities was burning, they were playing musical instruments.
Yeah.
So, Nero was not there.
Nobody was home.
All the sporting events when it started with lions eating us and everything, Nero not really started it because it was still going on, but Nero made sure that all the Israelites were involved in that because of the fact he had to cover up on why the cities of Troy and Rome were burnt in the first place.
But if you look further into that, because they was going through and gathering our people up, and they were putting them on the stake throughout the city and setting them on fire, burning them alive, using them for light.
Right. Okay. Let's go to Acts 25:11. So the Caesar that is mentioned in this scripture, this is Nero. And Paul went to Nero. Yes.
So, this Nero was the one behind 70 AD? Well,
No.
Cause?
Nope. We're going to get to 70 AD. Nero did not cause 70 AD.
Who was
In
before
fact,
Nero?
Who was before Nero?
Because there was a crazy one before
I think it
Nero.
was
Because he tried to
Claudius.
Yeah. He tried to kill a lot of Israelites,
Right.
but there were so many of us he couldn't.
Right.
He couldn't kill us all, kill all our people.
Yeah, Claudius was
He took a lot of people out. He did.
right.
But there were so many of us.
See, Tiberius didn't really go and start killing Israelites. That didn't start until Caligula. Yeah, that's how you pronounce it. That really didn't start till Caligula. Then Claudius, then Nero. These other Roman emperors or Caesars, they were executed for whatever reason. It's too many to look up. But from Ventix, from here, Ventix, up until Vespasian, these 6 emperors were all executed.
Now, you love history, you can go on and look it up. Take your time to look it up.
Now,
It's very interesting, I'm telling you.
for this particular teaching,
It was too much, I know.
yeah, too much. 'Cause we still got to understand the Roman Catholic Church. All right, Claudius. Acts 25 and 11? No. What's the question?
I'm just gonna give a quick break.
Breakdown of the 70 Roman empires between 14 and 395 AD. 23 died of assassination, 20 died of natural causes. 8 others were assassination, 3 were executed, and 5 committed suicide.
Right. And I believe Nero was one of the 5 that committed suicide.
Yeah.
Okay? Let's read Acts 25 and 11, and let's get to Vespasian in 70 AD.
My history teacher didn't teach me that in college.
Acts chapter 25, verse 11. For if I be an offender or have committed anything worthy of death, I refuse not to die. But if there be none of these things whereof these accuse me, no man may deliver me unto them. I appeal unto Caesar.
I appeal unto Caesar. So this Caesar that Paul was appealing to was Nero. Okay?
Yeah,
Let's talk about 70 AD. Let's talk about Vespasian. Alright, so Rome at this point now, you know, the Zealots, which we're going to learn a lot about next week. The Zealots were a group of Israelites whom did not approve of Rome and Judea at all. So there was oppressions that started with Rome, and there was started to have little dissension in the power of Rome. So what happened is that Vespasian went to Rome and he took over Rome. And he allowed his son, Titus, to be kind of like not an emperor, but someone who was, and not governor. It's kind of hard to say what Titus' official title was, but he was not a governor. He was above a governor. And he had the area of Judea, Jerusalem, the Middle East. Okay? Uprisings were coming up left and right. So Titus, who succeeded his father died. Titus came into power, and he became the first emperor to come to the throne after the death of his father. Prior, Titus was getting renowned as a military commander. He was not a governor. He was like a general. And his area was Judea. His area was Idumea, Palestine. All that was his area. And he controlled it. Okay? But when he became emperor, that was a death sentence for us. Okay? This ark that is dedicated to Titus in Rome shows them looting the temple in 70 AD. You probably can't see it, but right here is the Ark of the Covenant. And right there, there's a menorah on top of the Ark of the Covenant. Okay? So the Roman Empire at this point, and yes, of course, the story is that when someone touched the Ark of the Covenant, they would die.
I was just thinking of that.
But the thing of it is that because our people were rebellious, and because they killed Yeshua, and because they said something that was very, very stupid about, let's see, their blood, their children, blood being on their children, right? This was allowed to happen. Yeshua predicted and told them that this was going to happen. We'll get that in a little bit. All right, let's get an understanding. Vespasian was declared emperor July 1st, 69 AD. Titus was left in charge of ending the Hebrew rebellion. It was a rebellion in 68 AD. And that rebellion lasted until 70 AD. 70 AD, he destroyed the temple, and the city of Jerusalem. But there's something that history and people omit. Not everyone was out of Jerusalem. There were still people there. And I'm going to show you that when we get to a certain area in time that is after 70 AD. Something else happened. Okay? This here is a picture of an Israelite church at the church at Sardis, one of the churches that assuming Paul started up. Okay? And I'm saying church because synagogue means something different. And we're going to stop saying synagogue. Okay? Right. So we're going to stop with the saying of synagogue and just say church. Because that means something totally different. Yeah. All right, so we got the Israelite church. 70 AD is called the Roman-Jewish War. All right, and it started at 6 AD. Judea, Roman province under direct control of Roman governor Pontius Pilate in 30 AD. We're going to get Matthew 27. And this is at the time of Yeshua's execution. Matthew 27 and 21.
Matthew chapter 27, verse 21. The governor answered and said unto them, Whether of the twain will ye that I release unto you? They said, Barabbas.
All right, they said Barabbas. All right, so then in 41 AD, the province of Judea was disbanded. Herod Agrippa I ruled as a Roman king until his death in 44 AD. We're going to get that in Acts 12. Right? So you have Herod Agrippa. And the Herods, we're gonna have a little section on the Herods, because they were something else also, but they were Idumeans. Okay? Let's read Acts 12, and we're going to read 21 to 23. Okay, let's read.
Acts chapter 12, verse 21. And upon a set day, Herod, arrayed in royal apparel, sat upon his throne and made an oration unto them. And the people gave a shout, saying, It is the voice of a God and not a man. And immediately the angel of the Lord smote him, because he gave not the Most High the glory, and he was eaten of worms and gave up the ghost.
Right. Okay, so on Agrippa's death, his son Agrippa II was the only child, and he established the known areas of Galilee, Perea, and Judea, which were all still under Roman rule. Paul came around and was arrested in 57 AD, and Felix was the governor at that time. Felix was like a Pontius Pilate. Okay, let's get Acts 23 and 24. And I'm doing this to lead up to 70 AD. Acts 23 and 24. All right, let's read that.
Acts chapter 23, verse 24. And provide them beef, that they may set Paul on, and bring him safe unto Felix the governor.
All right, I'm just having this scripture here to show Felix the governor was the guy who I was talking about when Paul was arrested in 57 AD. Then, in 59 AD, he was replaced by Porcius Festus, which we got scripture coming up now, Acts 25 and 9. All right? And it was Festus' request that Paul be returned to Jerusalem and take trial and appear in front of Emperor Nero. So this is all about 59 AD. Let's read.
Acts chapter 25, verse 9. But Festus, willing to do the Israelites a pleasure, answered Paul and said, wilt thou go up to Jerusalem, and there be judged of these things before me?
Uh-huh.
Then said Paul, I stand at Caesar's judgment seat, where I ought to be judged.
Right.
To the Israelites have I done no wrong, as thou very well knowest.
So he was saying that, no, I'm not going to allow Israelites to judge me because I know they will kill me. I'm going to go to Nero because, first of all, I'm a Roman citizen. I'm going to go to Nero, and I'm going to be judged by Nero, which, of course, we all know didn't happen. Verse 11.
For if I be an offender or have committed anything worthy of death, I refuse not to die. But if there be none of these things whereof these accuse me, no man may deliver me unto them. I appeal unto Caesar.
Appeal unto Caesar. That was Nero. Okay? It was during Felix's government that it started to worsen. The relationship between the Israelites and the Gentiles, it started to get bad. And Caesarea was and it was called something else before, but of course, when Rome took over everything, they started naming cities after themselves, or they started naming cities after the Caesars, right? That's how we got Constantinople. Even though Constantinople is in Turkey, at that time in 323 or 324 AD, Constantine ruled the world at that time. So he started changing the names of cities. That was nothing new with the Roman Empire. They would have changed Jerusalem if they wanted to, but they didn't. All right? After that, the Israelites became bitter. They started fighting, and they started uprising in areas where there was a large amount of Roman soldiers. They started uprising. This isn't where the Zealots came in. The Zealots were before then, but the Zealots at this time were all together, and they were ready to take out Rome. Mid-60s, Judea had become a time bomb. It was about to explode. You had little uprisings here, you had little uprisings there. Eventually, it was going to happen. So this was a Roman theater at Caesarea, which is in Israel, and this theater is where a lot of our people got killed also. Yeah.
Also, Caesarea was in Israel.
Caesarea was in Israel, correct. Okay? Or Palestine. All right, so riots started about May of 66 AD, and that was in Caesarea. These riots really got inflamed because the Roman procurator at that time started taking Israelite money out of the temple, which was a no-no. War broke out in 66 AD. They started fighting against the Roman troops in Israel. And a lot of Israelites were massacred at that time. Okay? But they were still fighting back. So this made the Israelites attack Judean cities that had a large Gentile population. So what we started to do is that if we can't get the Roman guards, then we're going to get everybody who is not an Israelite, and we're going to attack them, and we're going to kill them. And a lot of the Israelites were killing men, women, children of Gentile matter. It did not matter what they did. It did not matter if they were Roman. It did not matter anything at all. So this was the start of this, what we call 70 AD. But all of these events lead up to 70 AD. Josephus wrote that the universal hatred of Israelites is at its peak in 67 AD. 67 AD, coincidentally, was the same year that Paul and Peter were executed. They were both executed in 67 AD. Paul was executed by beheading, because he was a Roman citizen. You were not going to crucify a Roman citizen. Peter was crucified, but Peter was crucified upside down because he did not want to be crucified in the same manner Yeshua was crucified. We all know this. Jerusalem, then the Israelites were caught with a fight between the nationalists, which are the Zealots, and the Roman Empire. All right, this leads us to 70 AD. Let's get Luke 19. 70 AD, right? The two outer walls were captured in 70 AD, and the Roman forces fortified and preventing anybody from escaping. So the two north walls were where the gates were. And at this time, if you left, you were crucified. Inside of Jerusalem, all kinds of stuff was going on. People were eating each other. It was a madhouse. And this went on for a couple of years. They were not allowed to leave Jerusalem. If they were executed. Those who left prior, who heeded Yeshua's warning, they fled. They went up into Africa. We're going to deal with them a little later. All right? We're going to deal with them in about 3 weeks. Find out what happened to them. Because no sin goes unpunished. And because those who left Israel before 70 AD, they got punished later. And we're going to show that with the Oriental slave trade. The fortress of Antonia was captured in July, and the temple was stormed, set afire in August, and the whole place went crazy. Let's see the prophecy with Yeshua. Luke 19 and 41. All right, let's read.
Luke chapter 19, verse 41. And when he was come near, he beheld the city and wept over it, saying, If thou hadst known, even thou, at least in this thy day, the things which belong unto thy peace, but now they are hid from thine eyes. For the day shall come upon thee, that thine enemy shall cast a trench about thee, and compass thee round, and keep thee on every side, and shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee, and they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation.
All right. This was 70 AD. Now, we could get a lot deeper into 70 AD, but we got a lot of stuff to cover, and I know everybody knows something about 70 AD. With that being said, yes.
When you said nationalists, those who are Italians, what are nationalists and nationalists?
Nationalists are people who have pride in their country. Like, it's a car painting the Mexican flag on their car. Kind of like that, yes.
Was it true that those aliens would call themselves Sakari back then, or?
I don't know about that. I just know there's Sakari. I don't even know where that term came from, to be honest with you. They were called, I don't know if they were called Sakari or not. Yes.
So when you said the national Italians versus the Roman Empire,
Right.
So the people who had pride in their country when they were versus the Roman Empire, was that the rebellion you were talking about?
Yes, that was the uprising. Yes. Before we get to 135 AD, we're going to take a break. So we're going to take like a 10-minute break because we've been going for a couple hours. Do we got anything on the chat? Any questions?
No.
All right. So we're going to take about a 10-minute break. And the question is, well, before we take the break, what happened in 135 AD? Because we hear about 70 AD all the time. But what happened in 135 AD?
Without using Google?
AD is a little different from 70 AD. 70 AD, Rome came and they sacked the city and all that. 135 AD is called the Carvaka Revolt. Okay? And the main reason for 135 AD is because the Rome decided to say no more circumcisions, no more religious practices, no more anything about Israel, no more doing anything. Everything was outlawed at that time. The Israelites were barred from entering in Jerusalem. So you had a bunch of people who were not supposed to be in Jerusalem. Israelites were barred from going into Jerusalem, right? And this revolt was led by Simon Bar Kokhba. Now, we're going to give a little information about him because he was a nut job. He thought he was the second coming of the Shah. And when you are led by someone who is a nut job, a lot of people get killed. All right? So we're going to hold here, and we're going to take like a 10-minute break. And we're going to play some music during the 10-minute break. And like I said, we're going to have another break, probably just 5 minutes, a 5-minute break later on. Okay? All right, we're going to play some music.
Righteous
Marcus Records.
You don't know nobody now but I got you, yeah. I'm giving everything that they trying to hide inside the creature. Oh, my name is so terrible, I'm on TV. So for one, you hear them hiding these things from his children. Some call him Jah, some call him Yah, some call him Yahweh, some call him Jehovah. His name is Ahaya, Asha, Ahaya. His name is Ahaya, Asha, Ahaya. Them call him from Jesus, them call him Yeshua, some call him Yahuwah. His name is Ashaya, his name is Ashaya, his name is Ashaya, his name is Ashaya. Ashaya means Israel in Hebrew. Original years in a slavery, I Egypt, before Moses came, and made the Most High name. After 100 years since we inaugurated, and the Most High redeemed his name again. Rise up, how I get it wise up. Babylon tries to stay again. Drop up in the west and try to get all in the summer brain. But we are lost to ourselves and we don't know from which we came. While they indoctrinate us, they say they dirty air. I know the spirits of the Most High falling in the rain. How you wash yourself clean, all the bodies true name. Some call him Jah, some call him Yah, some call him Yahweh, some call him Jehovah. His name is Ahaya, Asha, Ahaya. His name is Ahaya, Asha, Ahaya. Them call him from Jesus, them call him Yeshua, them call him Yahuwah. His name is Yeshaya, his name is Yeshaya, his name is Yeshaya, his name is Yeshaya. Yeshaya means Israel in Hebrew. Time is short and the people know the Messiah is about to show. It puts fear in all the kings of the nation, so them a make out a space separation. When you feel don't live like the pilgrims in those times to escape the destruction in all the wilderness, call it on the Most High name. Some call him Jah, some call him Yah, some call him Yahweh, some call him Jehovah. His name is Ahaya, Asha, Ahaya. His name is Ahaya, Asha, Ahaya.
Alright, so we're back, and let's start, and let's get an understanding of what happened to our people in 135 AD. Alright, so we're going to get an understanding of 135 AD. Yeah, alright, so 135 AD was a revolt that was happening because the Romans decided to say that we're not going to have any of our religious practices anymore. And circumcision, everything that we were doing would be outlawed. So this guy, Bar Kokhba, Simon Bar Kokhba, led a revolt in 135 AD. And it was disastrous because this guy thought that he was the second coming of Yeshua. Right? So his rebellion had disastrous results. 580,000 Israelites were killed during this revolt. The city of Jerusalem was not completely destroyed in 70 AD as people teach. That's a lie. It wasn't. It wasn't completely destroyed until 135 AD. That's when Rome came in and destroyed all of Israel. All of Jerusalem. So 70 AD is not when the city was totally destroyed and they left that one wall up. That's not true. 135 AD, and a lot of people don't teach on 135 AD, that Jerusalem was completely destroyed. The surviving Israelites had to be scattered because they were banned from ever returning to Jerusalem. In addition to that, those people that were there in Jerusalem were sold into slavery.
By the Romans?
Yes, by the Romans. Right? So they were sold into slavery. A lot of Israelite population remained strong in other parts of Palestine. So it was just Jerusalem that was sacked. Galilee was thriving. Golan was thriving. Bethshean, that valley was thriving. The east part and the west part of the edges of Judea, and I did not put a map up here. All right. Also, Roman soldiers were also they took a pretty good hit also. This is supposed to be an artist's rendition of what happened in 135 AD with the Roman soldiers here, and this being Jerusalem. Eventually, Bar Kokhba was killed. Eventually, he was killed because he thought of himself as being the Messiah, and the Sanhedrin labeled him as being a false Messiah. So this siege that happened, it only took 3 years. Okay? Israelites in Jerusalem were, once again, they were blotted out of Jerusalem, and they could not go back. And because the war had cost the lives of so many Israelites, the war had cost the lives of many Romans. If an Israelite was to be caught in Jerusalem, they would get the death penalty. At this time, they were totally banned. The Romans totally banned us from from Jerusalem in 135 AD. And this is all told by historians. Okay? But even though the Israelites fought back, those who had a true bloodline, when they checked the bloodline, I don't know how they did it with papers or whatever, they were executed. But the Gentiles were allowed to stay there. So not only did you have the Gentiles who were allowed to stay in Jerusalem, but you also had the Idumeans who were allowed to stay there. Okay? Next section. Roman Catholic Church. Okay? Yes.
So after 135 AD, right? Like the Israelites no longer are allowed to be there or anything. So that's when the Gentiles and you said the Idumeans took over Israel. So that's where it started going that they are the chosen people.
It started before 135 AD, but 135 AD is a trigger point for the end of any people of the blood lineage of Israel to be in Jerusalem. The Idumeans, it started before 135 AD. They started taking over before 135 AD. 135 AD is the point where no more Israelites were allowed in Jerusalem.
But they had taken over
They took over the
temple,
priesthood and the
priesthood.
temple.
When Yeshua was alive,
Right,
they had taken that over.
right. But now, 135 AD, and that's where it's not being understood. The temple and everything associated with the temple itself, not Jerusalem, was taken over by the Edomians. We still had some of them, our people were still in positions as Pharisees. As far as Jerusalem, and as far as no more Israelites in Jerusalem, that was 135 AD. No more Jerusalem, no more Israelites were allowed in Jerusalem at that time. Okay? All right, the horror, Revelation 17. Let's get an understanding of this with the Roman Catholic Church. So, a lot of Israelites teaching that Babylon is Islam. A lot of people believe that the United States is Babylon. But we're going to show you that it can't be right. The Islam connection to Babylon, that's very easy to debunk. So we're going to show that with the Bible. We're going to go to Revelation, the 17th chapter. So we're going to have proof that Babylon cannot be Islam, and Babylon cannot just be a city or a country. Because you have certain people who are saying that Babylon is New York. You have certain people who are saying the city New York. Yeah, because there's a scripture that says city. So you have certain people who are saying that the New York City is Babylon. You have people who are saying that the United States is Babylon. And then you have people who are saying that Islam is Babylon. And so let's prove all that wrong and find out, and let's prove once and for all who Babylon is. In Revelation 17, we're going to read verses 1 through 3.
Revelation chapter 17, verse 1.
Yes?
And there came one of the seven angels, which hath the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters.
Verse 2.
With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. Verse 3. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns.
All right, so what is fornication? So we're going to find out what the Bible means of fornication is, right? The Bible fornication is the act of committing adultery against the Most High by mixing pagan religions and practices and going after other gods. That's the biblical term for fornication. Let's go over to Ezekiel, the 16th chapter. And let's prove it. Ezekiel 16, we're going to go 26 to 32. We all know the meaning of fornication, but spiritual fornication or biblical fornication. Let's see what the Bible says it is. Ezekiel 16, verse 26. Let's start there.
Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 26. Thou hast also committed fornication with the Egyptians, thy neighbors, great of flesh, and hast increased thy whoredoms to provoke me to anger.
See that? You have committed fornication with the Egyptians. Great of flesh, great fornications. Increase thy whoredoms to provoke the Most High to anger. 27.
Behold, Therefore I have stretched out my hand over thee, and have diminished thine ordinary food, and delivered thee unto the will of them that hate thee. The daughters of the Philistines, which are ashamed of thy lewd ways.
The daughters of the Philistines, and the scripture says, which are ashamed of thy lewd ways. So they had to be doing something that was worse than what the Philistines were doing. Israel, 28.
Thou hast played the whore, also with the Assyrians.
Also playing the whore with the Assyrians. Right? Continue.
Because thou wast insatiable, yea, thou hast played the harlot with them, and yet thou couldst not be satisfied.
You could not be satisfied. You're playing the whore with the Assyrians. You're following after their gods. You're following after their practices and their religious practices. You're committing fornication against the Most High. 29.
Thou hast moreover multiplied thy fornication in the land of Canaan unto Chaldea, and yet thou wast not satisfied herewith.
You're still not satisfied. You're just committing even more fornication. Now it's with the Chaldeans and Babylon. 30.
How weak is thine heart, says the Lord power.
So how weak are you, Israel? Keep going.
Seeing thou doest all these things, the work of an imperious, whorish woman.
You're doing the work of a great whorish woman. Right? This is fornication. But this fornication is on a whole nother level. Spiritual fornication.
ARW said, Elder Sir, it sounds like the EU and the Roman Catholic Church is that Babylon today. So they always try to figure it out before you get to it. I love it.
Yeah.
We're going to hold it. We're going to wait. We got to wait till we get there.
Where were we? 31? No, 30. We read 30. All right? So they were weak. Everything, all the doctrines that the Assyrians, the Chaldeans, the Egyptians, all the doctrines and everything that they were doing, Israel was falling right into it. And they were doing it better than the Egyptians, than the Assyrians, and the Chaldeans or the Babylonians.
You know, we ought to be the best at everything.
They were doing it better because the Philistines was looking disgusting.
The best of the best, sir.
The Philistines, the ones who worship Dagon, a fish head. 31.
Verse 31. And that thou buildest thine eminent place in the head of every way, and makest thine high places in every street, and hast not been as an harlot, and that thou scornest hire.
32.
But as a wife that committeth adultery, which taketh strangers instead of her husband,
Right? So we're going to understand what the Bible is saying in Revelation, the 17th chapter, and Ezekiel 16. The Most High's people of the Old Testament committed fornication against the Most High, and they became the whore. This is very important now, right? No. When the Most High is talking about people committing adultery and being the whore, this is on a prophetic sense.
Every time you say that word, he says it.
So let's give an example, and I got this example up here. Can the wife commit adultery against her husband by going after another man?
No. I mean,
Because she is married to the husband. Now, can another woman outside the marriage commit adultery against the husband?
no.
No.
That's fornication.
Because they're not married.
No, they're not. I got the answers up here. They're not married. No. So a woman who's, we're married, and there's a woman or a man who's out, they're doing whatever. Right?
And they're not married.
That person is not committing adultery against us.
No.
Right? So, people who who are outside the Israelite faith cannot commit adultery against the Most High because they are not married to Him in the first place. You understand what I'm saying? So Islam cannot be the Babylonian whore. Or anyone cannot be the Babylonian whore because of the fact that the only way you can commit adultery against the Most High or against Yeshua is you are married to Yeshua.
Israel is Babylon.
Right? So only Israelites can commit adultery against the Most High. Because Yeshua is the husbandman. He's the bridegroom. And the church is his bride. Who is the church? Israel. Okay? So Babylon the Great has to be some type of Christian church. But what type of Christian church is it?
Okay.
Right? So this is why this can't be Islam.
Okay. Y'all gotta let them teach and let them get there. They trying to figure it out.
There's
You know what they
there's
say?
nothing to figure out.
They trying to say that Israel, we are Babylon.
I hope that's not what nobody.
I don't know what they talking about.
Alright, so this is why this cannot be Islam. Because Islam rejects Yeshua as Savior. Anyone who rejects Yeshua as Savior are not married to Yeshua, so you cannot commit spiritual adultery. Sinners who are out there cannot commit spiritual adultery against Yeshua. Because they're not married to him. People who are of Israel, if they do not believe in Yeshua, they cannot commit adultery against Yeshua because they are not married to him. You follow me so far?
Okay.
So Yeshua is not the husband of a lot of people because they cannot commit adultery against the Most High and be the whore. Right? Because they are not married to him in the first place. So Islam does not have, and also with Islam, they don't have the political power to be the Babylonian whore. They don't have the power. Islam, they can't even agree amongst themselves. They're always fighting against each other. Every group that comes up, there's only one religion that is regarded as the mother church. It's only one. Let's go over to Revelation, the 18th chapter. Revelation 18:23. Let's read.
Revelation chapter 18 verse 23.
Mm-hmm.
And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by their sorceries were all nations deceived.
Right, so whether we take this symbolically or whether we take it literally, there is only one kind of place this could be talking about. If we take it symbolically, spiritually, then the bride and the bridegroom is the biblical reference to Yeshua and his church, Israel. Okay. Let's go 2 Corinthians 11. And we've taught on this before, so this is not anything that we're bringing forth. This is not any new information that we've been bringing. We've taught on this before, on who the whore is that sit on many waters in Revelation the 17th chapter. We're just solidifying it with the Roman captivity teaching. We're going to revisit this again when we go through the book of Revelation. 2 Corinthians 11 and 2. Read that.
2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 2. For I am jealous over you with godly jealousy.
Mm-hmm.
For I have espoused you to one husband, that I may present you as a chaste virgin to Yeshua.
And that one husband that we are espoused to is Yeshua.
Yeah.
So that means you shouldn't be married to anybody else?
You shouldn't be married to, no. Don't talk about that.
I know, because it said when a man and woman come together, they're one flesh.
Right.
But this is spiritual.
This is spiritual. You should not be married to Confucius. You should not be married to Islam. You should not be married to Christianity or Catholicism or any other religion. Let's go Matthew 25 and 6.
Well, he's getting that.
Yes.
Issachar said, what about Christians? He said, Elder, do you want to know what's really sad?
What's really sad?
There's more unity in Islam than Israelite congregations. And Christianity, there's 41,000 denominations in Christianity. This is sad. Now, let me tell you something.
That is true. There is.
I don't think it's that many. The last time we saw he said 41,000. Well, maybe.
It probably is by now.
Yeah, because it's all over the world. China even has Christianity.
Right.
But I remember one time, just in America alone, there was like 68.
That was just the Baptist.
Oh, that was, okay.
Yeah, there was 68 different Baptist denominations.
But if everybody is Christian,
that
why there's no unity?
But that was, there's none. But that was, 10 years ago? There was like 68 different Baptist denominations. You had like 20 different Protestant denominations. Do we read Matthew? Yes.
Oh, there's 33,280 denominations of Christianity.
That's great.
No, it's not.
That's great. Wonderful.
All people going to hell.
But Christianity is not what we're talking about here.
Yeah, no.
Let's go Matthew 25 and 6. And let's read that.
Matthew chapter 25, verse 6. And at midnight there was a cry made, Behold, the bridegroom cometh, go ye out to meet him.
All right, the bridegroom cometh. So if we take it literally, then we do see brides and we see bridegrooms. We see the church. So Babylon has to be some type of professed Christian church. Right? Babylon cannot be America or any other country because Bible prophecy clearly portrays a country as a beast. It always portrays a country as being some kind of beast, whether the beast was a living beast or not, because there is one that is not a living beast. Right? Go to Daniel 7 and 23. What about the beast?
He's a beast.
Daniel chapter 7. And you know what? Let's start it at, you know what? No. Never mind. Daniel 7 and 23. Let's read that.
Daniel chapter 7, verse 23. Thus he said, The fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth, which shall be diverse from all kinds, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces.
This prophecy that was given for the Roman Empire. But we have to take it a step further, because this beast is still going today. This beast is still alive today. So Yeshua is the husband. The bride is Israel or the church. And it's the same thing in Revelation the 12th chapter. In Revelation the 12th, let's get Revelation 12 and 1. I don't have it on the screen, but you know what? We might as well go there. It's the same as the woman who's in Revelation the 12th chapter. Because Revelation the 12th chapter is the pure church. Not like Revelation the 17th chapter. Read Revelation 17, start at verse 1.
Revelation chapter 12, verse 1. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars.
Right. The woman representing the church, the sun representing Yeshua, the moon representing Jacob, the 12 stars representing the 12 sons of Israel. Keep going.
Verse 2. And she being with child cried, travailing and birth, and came to be delivered.
Yes.
And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon.
Let's just stop there for a minute. We got that coming up later. We got Revelation 12:3 coming up later.
So the woman was Israel.
Correct. Okay? So that's different than the woman in Revelation 17.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not the same woman.
Yes, I was looking at that.
Right, it's different than the woman that's in Revelation the 17th chapter. Okay? So, what is the main symbol of this woman riding the beast? The clear symbol is uniting of the church and state. Okay. With the church being the one who's in control. The state is not in control. The church is in control, regardless what they make you think. So let's identify it. Let's look at the marks of the whore.
Before we do that, I don't know when it happened. But, I was a Christian, I took a Christianity class. It talks about when the state and the church supposedly had separated.
Right.
But really,
that happened in
I forgot when it happened.
in the 1700s.
But they really didn't
In
separate.
1776.
They really did not separate.
Right, with the Declaration of Independence.
They did not really separate. They lied.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the church still pushes things, because the church controls the people.
But what church?
Yeah.
Right? Let's identify it. Number one. Let's go back to Revelation 17. Hold your Bibles in Revelation 17 because we're going to be in and out of Revelation 17 for this section. I think we still got 2 more sections to go. Revelation 17, verse 1.
Revelation chapter 17, verse 1. And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters.
All right, so the first thing that we got to do is that this whore, this church whore of Babylon, sits upon many waters, right? But what does that mean? So what we do in this ministry is we let the Bible interpret itself. So skip down to verse 15 and read verse 15.
Revelation chapter 17, verse 15. And he said unto me, The waters which thou sawest where the whore sitteth are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues.
So you got the waters which represent people and nations. And if you sit on something, you are being supported by that object.
You control it.
Right? You're being supported by that object if you're sitting on it. You all are sitting on couches. What's supporting you? The couch. Right? So, this is a worldwide church, and this church has worldwide support from different people and different nations. How do we know that the Roman Catholic, how do we know that? Because the Roman Catholic Church has over 1 billion members. Right? Let's get identity number 2. And we're going to go to Revelation chapter 17 and verse 2. And like I said, this is kind of a preview of what we're going to be doing this summer, but to a much deeper extent. Revelation 17:2, read.
Revelation chapter 17, verse 2. With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication.
Now, we have to understand and we have to ask some questions. Who are the kings of the earth? Right? Who are the inhabitants of the earth? Who were made drunk with, what is the wine of her fornication? Right? So we know the kings of the earth have to be the leaders of these countries. What is the wine of her fornication? The doctrine.
Just like
what?
When you try
the new wine with the new doctrine.
Right. Okay. The doctrine of her fornication. The doctrine of her fornication. So her laws and everything, right? Let's read something. This is a quote from Herman Roshin. He was a socialist chief from the Third Reich. What's the Third Reich? Nazis. Right? Adolf Hitler's section was called the Third Reich. Okay? This is what he said. I learned much from the order of the Jesuits, said Hitler. Until now, there has never been. Are y'all listening?
Yes, I am.
You need to listen to what's going on. I learned much from the order of the Jesuits. Hitler said Hitler. This is Hitler quoting and saying he learned from the Jesuits.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I'm still kind of reluctant on doing a teaching about the Jesuits.
I don't know why.
Because I want to read.
They gonna come get him.
They gonna come get
his life,
me.
lose his life. A man that gives his life.
Where's that elder? Where's that shepherd guy?
I say he right over here. No, I say he over here, boss.
See, that's why I'm kind of reluctant on doing a teaching about the Jesuits.
He right here, boss.
I'll say this again, this occurred to do a teaching on the Jesuits.
Oh, you don't give it to Gad Issachar. That's
Yeah, I'm passing off to Gad
That's
Issachar.
wrong.
He can do a teaching on the Jesuits. Then they come knocking on his door. Alright. Until now, there's never been anything like this on earth. No, I'm sorry. Let me read this over again. This is a quote from Herman Rausching. I learned much more from the order of the Jesuits, said Hitler. Until now, there has never been anything more grandiose on the earth than the hierarchical organization of the Catholic Church. I transferred much of this organization into my own party.
Mm-hmm.
This was what Adolf Hitler said about the Catholic Church. Okay?
A lot of those famous psychologists, what were their names? The famous psychologists, Freud, Sigmund Freud, there was a couple other ones. They all actually came and worked, they did all this stuff with Hitler.
Yeah.
They controlled a lot, they did a lot of with the mind thing and the experiments and everything. Yeah, so Hitler was not in control the way people think he was.
Right.
But he still fought that family member. They still all yapping.
Right.
They're still yapping. I don't have nothing to do with that.
Right. Yeah. All right, so this church has been influenced the kings over the last 2,000 years. Okay? They have diplomatic relations all over the world. Yes.
Was this the Roman Catholic Church with was it King Henry and he wanted to marry somebody so he tried to separate himself from them? Was that the Roman Catholic Church at that time as well? And he
Which
created,
King
and he
Henry?
created the one that created England, and that's where the Protestants came from.
Are you talking about a movie?
No,
The King Henry.
no, I'm not talking about the movie. I'm talking about real history. He was part of the Roman Catholic Church, and he wanted
The
to.
Protestants came about, that had to be before King Henry, because the Protestants was around with King
I don't know if it was King Henry or King Edward.
James. The Protestants was around, I don't know the start of the Protestants.
ARW, you're not getting my husband in trouble. I want to be with my man.
All right.
Let me tell you what he said. He
Yeah.
said, Elder Sir, I've done much study on the Jesuits and have met quite a few. I know how evil they are and what they stand for, and I let them know I know who they are, so bring it on.
Oh, okay.
I like having you around. If I didn't like having you around, I'd be like, go for it.
All right. So I have information on the Jesuits. I'm trying to figure out where I can fit that in somewhere. And we'll figure it out. Now we know from history that the popes of the Roman Catholic Church had authority over all the kings of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
All right? And the Roman Catholic Church has killed many people. But I don't think we understand the atrocities that the Roman Catholic Church has done. And we're going to show some of those tonight. We're going to take another look at another quote. This is in 2007. And this is from Monsignor Pietro Parolian, understudy for the relation with states. Nice title.
Understudy or
Undersecretary for relations with states. So they have a position with the Roman Catholic Church, and he's a secretary. The Catholic Church is the only religious institution that can enter into diplomatic relations and that interests itself in international rights, acting through the Holy See, an international sovereign subject of singular characteristics. So what it's saying is that the Roman Catholic Church, that any country that has to make decisions, you cannot make a decision in your country unless you have approval from this Secretary for Relations with States, the Roman Catholic Church.
And that's why you see all the presidents meeting with the Pope. But there was a video where you saw the Pope kissing the hand of the people from the 13 families.
Right.
But let me tell you,
But let's understand something. The 13 families, the Roman Catholic Church rules the world.
So let me tell you this, because I don't know what kind of people you're raising up in your church.
Mm-hmm.
But Gad Issachar said, I'm ready for those Jesuit elders. But when they take my family with me so we can be at peace together in Abraham's bosom.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
I still got stuff I got to do here.
Because I wouldn't want to leave my family behind in all this turmoil. We all gonna die, let us die together as Israel.
They're gonna get out of here, and he writes the people names down who's heading for the door. Are you writing their names down for real? He is for real. He writes names down.
You look like you was about your people's moving.
I saw 4 people move, I think.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
I got your names. Alright, this is a quote because this guy, when he made this quote, he did not know that he was confirming that the Roman Catholic Church is the real whore of Babylon. He was just speaking.
You think he didn't know?
Of course, no, he didn't know.
Mm.
Because when you read the article, he had no idea that he was saying this, that it was being recorded. He didn't have no idea.
Mm.
The only religious institution that can have diplomatic relations with the world. The Vatican holds diplomatic relations with 183 nations. So you see why the Roman Catholic Church is bigger than the top 5 Fortune 500 companies in the world. Bigger by at least 3 times. Because the Fortune 500 companies don't have 1 billion employees.
Did you go to the Vatican City when you were in the military?
Yes, he did.
No, I'm asking because I want to know, is it really made of gold?
No.
Oh.
In fact, we got a picture coming up. All right. Also, the inhabitants of the earth are certainly drunk with her fornication. Right? When the Pope comes around, the Bacchus spirit comes around. And the Bacchus spirit, people are falling out. People are crying like crazy whenever he's around. 1 billion Catholics are deceived by her preaching. And the majority of the Protestant Christians who still hold Catholic beliefs. If you have a church and they celebrate Sabbath on the Sunday, that is a Roman Catholic belief.
Mm-hmm.
Priests that are forbidden to marry. Certain Protestants, Lutherans I believe it is, they're forbidden to marry. They cannot marry. Believe it's the Lutherans, not for sure. Here's some more images. Cross and relic ordination. Intercession of Mary. Prayers to Mary and the saints. Mass. Confession to priests. Purgatory. Prayers for the dead. Holy water. Believe it or not, that is a sacrilege of the Roman Catholic Church. Lent. Penances. Processions. Pilgrimages. Celibacy of clergy. None of these are biblical institutions, right? Pilgrimages are your missionary trips, right?
You trying to be Catholic, nothing.
No.
And instead, all of this stuff that Christianity says they originated, it came from Rome. Came from the harlot. Yes.
So when I was working, you can't wear a Yeshaya shirt, like with a picture of Yeshaya as the 10 Commandments or anything. But you can see like where the Catholics are walking around with the ash on their foreheads and stuff. But you can't wear your shirt or anything.
Right.
Oh, they was wearing it at work. They had the ash like ash.
Yeah, they have it everywhere.
Yeah, they would throw the ash on their head or throw the ash on their hand.
And you would see
Mark
people at
it
work like that.
It was a group of them. They would have it on their forehead.
I saw a kid in the store in Arizona with ash on his head.
But you can't wear your
Oh,
shirt.
yeah, it's because they're elder. I can't leave my family. They need me. I'm the head. I'm the protector, leader, provider. But Yeshua was promised, stay faithful even to death, and we will receive a crown of life.
Right. So that's why we should be the Jesuit teacher. Let's go Revelation 17 and 4 to get identity number 3.
And nobody's ripping off my fingernails and feeding them to me.
All you gotta do is denounce Jesus.
Oh, he just did. He spit on that Jesus.
Revelation 17:4, let's read.
Revelation chapter 17 verse 4. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication.
All right, and there you go. See the red and the scarlet?
They're like
See the cup?
openly worshiping the devil
Yes, they are.
right in front of everybody.
Yes, they are. You see this guy with Dagon on his head? That's Dagon.
They cave the devil.
Fish god. This guy right here looks like devil horns on his head.
They're openly worshiping.
They're openly worshiping Satan. And people do not understand, they don't see this.
And
You
those,
ask a person, why are you a Catholic? More than likely,
they can't tell you.
I don't know. But we're going to find out why when we do the teaching for our Latino and Native American brothers and sisters, we're going to find out why there's such a stranglehold on Catholicism on them. And it all goes back to one person. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, can I say something about that? Like
Sure.
With Issachar, with the Spaniards brought, when they took over Mexico, they brought the religion. You know, it was forced on them. They couldn't speak the tongue that they were speaking, or like by this time they were already doing sacrifices to people, but they couldn't practice anything that was to them. So when they fought, and it was Puebla, like a small town, when they fought France, there was actually a native guy who had a vision in Indio Tepeyac. They said he had a vision, and they used Revelation 12 for their own version of the Virgin Mary, saying that was they needed like a symbol to represent them, and that's how the dark Virgin Mary came about. With the revolutionary, what they said was that the small town's independence from France, they came with this image, which they still, it's like Catholicism, but they don't worship a white Jesus. I mean, still like, it's still Jesus.
So that's where
But
that
it's
Was
Black
it France?
Mary, the Black Mary and the Black
like
Jesus.
Jesus come
Is
from.
it France or Spain?
No, the
France?
revolution, that's why Cinco de Mayo comes, and people celebrate it, but they don't know. That's the revolution of Puebla versus France, and the revolution
Well, I didn't know
where
that.
Mexico believes they got their independence from Spain was in September 16th. So it's two, that's where Cinco de Mayo.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I thought it was the revolution from Spain. I didn't know it was the revolution from France. Oh, learn something new every day.
Right. They're still working. Roman Catholic Church.
Oh,
Yeah.
why didn't I just say that?
All right, so the colors of this church, of the whore, is purple and scarlet. It's very wealthy, as you can see. That's solid gold. That's not gold plated. That's not painted gold. That's solid gold that they're carrying. Right? And the main color of the bishops and cardinals is purple and scarlet. The Roman Catholic Church is one of, if not the most wealthiest institution in the world. Right? I would have you all to go to this website after the Shabbat. I'm going to pull some things out, but I would like you all to go to this website, okay? And check this out. We're going to have some excerpts here on what you're going to be checking out. Check this out. Vatican crimes. 4 million newborns forcibly surrendered by their unwed mothers who were considered to be psychologically deficient for being single. This scheme was executed by religious and approved by the government. 4 million babies surrendered. To whom? The Roman Catholic Church. Right? In a documentary by Dan Rather, details over 1 million women were coerced by nuns to give up their babies, whom the Vatican then sold illegitimate adoptions for great profits. This crime was committed by the Catholic mother baby.
just saw a video about a lady who used to be, a nun, and she talked about how the babies were sold, and how they were sacrificed, and how there was a lot of corpse underneath the church.
Yes.
But they did, she said they drank the blood, like they was used for different rituals. They were sold, that it was a lot.
Correct.
And some of the nuns even end up having babies, like they will get pregnant by the.
Yes, these nuns are being sexually abused also.
Yeah.
Right? I think I have something on that coming up. 23,000. The BBC documentary Guinea Pig Kids evidenced 23,000 orphans from Catholic orphanages in New York were used as human experiments. 1,570 victims of sexual abuse were claimed in the city of Portland. This was in 1 year. And I cut off the year. I forgot what year it was. 250,000 children falsely classified as orphans and submitted in orphan trains or mercy trains. Trains that would sell children into adoption for the child labor in 2011. This is how this whore is making a part of her money. Right? 100,000. According to the preliminary expert report, in 1996, the average pedophile has 250 more victims over his lifetime. In this report, Father Andrew Greeley estimates that exists 100,000 to 150,000 of sexual abuse by Catholic priests in Baltimore, Maryland alone.
Yes. Was this what they were talking about, like into, I think last year, about the Catholic priests and, you know, how they were molesting the kids or whatever?
I don't know. Was there something about that? I'm sure it's something about it every month.
And they said the Catholic Church has paid the most money on, oh, we need that website again. Elder, can you put that website on the chat? I can't see it clearly. What, do you have?
Yeah, put it on the chat.
You write down. No, they pay out, because they don't do anything about it. The people that come up with the cases of being raped by the priest and all that, they just pay them off, they settle out. And they have money set aside, but they said they have paid like millions of dollars, just millions and millions.
That's just a drop in the bucket for the Roman Catholic Church, because the Roman Catholic Church has billions. So to pay out a few $1 million claims, that's nothing for them. Here's the website, www.areyourchildrenprotected.org. Is that on the chat?
Yeah.
All right. Let's get back to it. 300 Alaska Native children were sexually abused at the hands of 2 priests.
Well, they dealing with lust spirits.
And that's 80% of the population of Anchorage. Right? In the book Lucifer's Lodge by William H. Kennedy, this is page 179. According to the 1996 survey of nuns in the United States, which was intentionally never published by the church, but was leaked by some Vatican insider, it is reported that minimum of 34,000 Catholic nuns claim to have been sexually abused. Right? This is Vicars for Christ, of Christ, 1988, pages 404 and 408. In the 21st century, many monasteries were the haunts of homosexuals. Many covered their brothels. Many convents were brothels in which babies were killed and burned. Promiscuity was rife in monastery and convents. So this is what's going on behind those doors of convents and monasteries. Okay? In the book, The Death of the Pope of Rome, that was published in 2005, Pope John Paul II presided over the second pornography of the papacy. He presided over the greatest, most widespread, immoral scandal of sexual perversion in church history. The greatest deception and the sin of Babylon was prophesied in Daniel the 7th chapter, where it says the little horn, that little horn would take power, that little horn would rise from the Roman Empire. That little horn was the Pope in Daniel the 7th chapter. That little horn was speaking to change laws and times. The Pope changes laws and times. That little horn of Rome would change the laws, times, the very law that our Father has given us, and in the Ten Commandments, change that to remove commandment number 2 and to remove commandment number 4. What's commandment number 2? Can you go to Exodus 20th chapter?
What is in there,
Yes.
Jared Enterprise said, but elders, don't you know the Catholic leaders can be, pedophiles because the Catholic officials and record says the Catholic leaders are above the Bible and have authority over Scripture.
Oh, we got something for that later.
So let me tell you something. When that message came over, I had to choose to show it or to hide it.
That's okay. We know. We know. What you got? Exodus 20, should be Exodus 20 and 2, right? Or 3? 4. Second commandment, what is it?
Thou shalt make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth.
Okay, go down to the 4th commandment. Read the 4th commandment.
Verse 8, remember the Sabbath day and to keep it holy.
There's more to it.
6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy power. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates.
All right. So the Pope is declared as God on earth. This is from Evangelical Christendom, published in 1895. The Pope is not simply the representative of Yeshua. On the contrary, he is Yeshua himself under the veil of the flesh. This is the Ferris Ecclesiastical Dictionary. The Pope is of so great dignity and so exalted that he is not a mere man, but as it were God and the vicar of God. This is what And this is what is causing, right now, 1 billion people to go to hell. Yes.
What is Viper?
Vicar is equal? I forget what Vicar is. Look up and see what Vicar is. I used to know what Vicar is. That's why I didn't think about answering that, because I didn't think about putting it on here because I thought I knew what it was, but my memory fades me now. V-I-C-A-R, Vicar of God.
A vicar is a representative, deputy, or substitute, anyone acting in the person of or agent of superior linguistics.
Okay.
And mine said in the Roman Catholic Church, a representative or duty of a bishop.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So is that why people go and confess their sins to whatever pope is in there? Not pope, but like what in the church?
Whatever priest, right. Because we have something on that a little later too. The Pope and God are the same. So he has all power in heaven and earth. Pope Pius wrote this in the Barclay, chapter, I don't know, Roman numerals, 218, page 218. Okay, so the Pope. This is from Thureus Pompeia Biblio whatever. Hence, the Pope is crowned with a triple crown as the King of heaven and of earth and of the lower regions. Oh my. The Pope takes the place of Yeshua on earth. By divine right, the Pope has supreme and full power in faith and morals over each and every pastor of his flock. He is a true vicar, the head of the entire church, and the fathering teacher of all Hebrews. He is the infallible ruler, the founder of dogmas, the author of and the judge of councils, the universal ruler of truth, the arbiter of the world, the supreme judge of heaven and earth, the judge of all, being judged by no one, God himself on earth. That's your Roman catechism. I'm sorry, that's your New York catechism. Right here in this state. Copy some of that and put it on a resume, right? Oh, goodness. Yes, they put Hebrews in there. Ain't that beautiful? This judicial authority will even include the power to forgive sin. Right? So that's why they have the people going into the little confessionary booths, because they're forgiving their sins and telling them to say 50 Hail Marys and all this other madness. No man has the right to choose his religion. This is New York Freeman official journal, Bishop Hughes. No man has a right to choose his religion. That's what the Roman Catholic Church is pushing. The authority of the church could therefore be not bound to the authority of the scriptures. Ain't that wonderful? Because the church has changed the Sabbath into Sunday, not by command of Yeshua, but by its own authority. Gives him authority. There you go. That's the Canon and Tradition, page 263. Let's go to the fourth identity. Revelation 17 and 5. So let's read that.
Revelation chapter 17, verse 5. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth.
All right, so this is not no mystery church today, right? Like the Roman Catholic Church, but notice it says mother of harlots, right? So if she's the mother of harlots, where are her daughters? Revelation 17 deals more with the mother when we speak about Babylon, but Where's her daughter? Because she has a family. Where they be? She has daughter churches who will follow her and follow her every move. Her daughters are the Orthodox Church, the Church of England, the Lutheran churches, the Evangelical churches, the Baptists, the Methodists, the Lutherans, the non-denominationals, the Kojics, all of those churches, and we can't sit here and name all 33,000 of them. But they all are under the four mothers.
Islam too.
No, not Islam. Why not Islam?
No, what I'm saying is that the Catholic Church has given money or something to start these different religions up. They have their hand in everything.
Right. They do. But Islam is not under the daughter of Babylon. Because these churches have a clear tie to the Roman Catholic Church.
And then the Roman Catholic Church influenced all religions some kind of way. They have their hand in.
Correct. They influence religions, but you can't. Islam has nothing to do with the daughter of Babylon. Because in order to be the daughter of Babylon, what has to happen? You have to believe in somebody, right?
Right.
Who do you have to believe in?
Jesus.
There you go. Islam does not believe in it.
I'm not saying it like that.
What are you
I'm
saying?
saying that they support them some kind of way with finances or something like some kind of way they have some type of influence with these different religions.
Yes, they do.
So you can say you have an Islam church, but I could be giving you money to back your church and don't nobody know it. That would be how I would be influenced with your, you know what I mean? Like
Right, they call it charity. The Roman Catholic charity. That's what it's called.
Okay, it's not Islam because they don't subscribe to the New Testament, Yeshaya.
Right.
I'm not saying like they're in bed with them far as religion. I'm talking about like finances and things like that. Like it's a business.
Yeah, the Roman Catholic Church is a business.
Look it up, I'm telling you.
Islam is, you can't really say Islam is a business because of the fact that, what?
What did you say?
Big brother businesses, like gas stations.
Well, that's different. Right? Well, we're getting off subject. So, the daughter of Babylon, the daughter churches of the Roman Catholic Church are pretty much every single one of your Christian denominations. Right? Okay? People look at the Roman Catholic Church as Babylon, but forget the Christian part. We can sit and we can say, yeah, the Roman Catholic Church is Babylon, but you forget that the Christian churches are under the guise of the Roman Catholic Church, the mother whore, right? And the church is the mother of the abominations of the earth. Let's go to Identity 5. I want to get to where, when the scripture says John was amazed, or John was marveled. Because there is something that John saw. And we're going to see what John saw. Identity number 5 is Revelation 17 and 6. And we're going to break down Revelation 17 and 6 in, I think, 2 parts. Let's read.
Revelation chapter 17, verse 6. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, and with the blood of the martyrs of Yeshaya. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration.
All right, we're going to talk about great admiration and what he wondered later. Right? But he saw the blood drunken of saints. So this church the whore of Babylon, is drunk with the blood of the saints themselves. So, it doesn't say that she has just the blood of saints on her hands. She has the blood of saints and with the blood of martyrs.
So that the martyrs are the ones that did not take the mark.
Correct. All right,
But
so
as far as the ones who would kill the disciples, the apostles, they were martyrs, right?
Mm-hmm. So this church is not only just guilty of killing a few Israelites, it's guilty of killing many hundreds and thousands of the Most High's people. In fact, this church is guilty of killing millions of Israelites. Who do you think funded the slave trade? Who are the Jesuits?
The European.
The Roman Catholic Church.
So, Jackson says, Elder, even Christians are so deceived, they believe they're separate from Catholicism.
Right.
They even slander Catholics themselves, not realizing Christians are same as Catholics. I used to do it,
Mhm.
and he ain't lying. I say,
Does. We used to slander Catholics all the time. They're going to hell. They don't accept my Jesus. They accept that Mother Whore Mary. We would say that all the time. But in reality, we were bowing down to the same gods that they were bowing down to. 6. Identity number 6. With this one, we're going to stay in Revelation 17, skip down to verse 18.
Revelation chapter 17, verse 18.
Mm-hmm.
And the woman which thou sawest is that great city, which
Mhm.
reigneth over the kings of the earth.
So this is a scripture where they get that New York is Babylon because it has the word city in there. That great city, right? Or they say that it's America, which is incorrect. But if y'all take identification marks together, including this city one, then we can clearly see on who this entity is. So we know the evidence of the Babylon the Great is a church. The Pope, the papacy, I think that's how you say it. They influence over 100 countries. Okay? Oh, this is a quote. The papacy is so influential and powerful that nearly every major country consists of her making major political moves. Her large diplomatic corps maintains relations with more than 100 nations. That was U.S. News and World Report, October 30th, 2018. All right, what are the messages before we get to identity number 7?
okay, this was the other part of Gavin's message. He said Christians have a little less idolatry, but just as pagan as Catholics.
Mm-hmm.
ARW said, but Islam is a part of 3 triangles that sits in the mother heartland, because there was a time when the Pope said, let's gather all the religions together, and Islam was standing right along with all the other religions with the Pope as he gave a decree over them. This was some years back.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're going to build that 3rd temple, and they're trying to build it where Islam has that dome,
Mm-hmm.
somebody, they're going to have to come into some type of agreement.
Right.
And that's where the Fraternity of Human Rights contract comes into play. That's why the Pope was kissing the leader of the Islamic community.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. All right, identity, yes, Islam is going to be needed when the Pope decides that he's going to move to Jerusalem. Islam is going to be needed. So, you're the biggest monopoly in the world. Pay them off. That's what's going to happen. Money talks. Let's go back up to Revelation 17, and we're going to get identity number 7, and read verse 6.
Revelation chapter 17, verse 6. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, and with the blood of the martyrs of Yeshua. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration.
You ever wondered what John meant when he said, I wondered with great admiration?
At what?
Right? Ever wonder what John meant by that? Yeah. I always thought, what did he mean by that? Why is he admiring this whore? And it came to me. What is the one church that people look with awe and wonder, and with all her splendor and with all her power? If you look at the Vatican, and this is a picture, but if you look at the Vatican, if you walk around the Vatican, number one, it's clean. It is crystal clean. There is not one piece of trash on the ground. You got all these buildings, and inside these buildings, it's
Immaculate.
right. Okay? The true definition of the verse, John wondered with great amazement. But why did John wonder with great amazement? This verse is tied to the persecution of the people, the power upon God's people. But John already saw this great persecution at the hands of pagan Rome. So, what's the astonishment that John is seeing? He's seeing the persecution and killing of the Most High's people. That was an astonishment to John. Right? The angel showed him the blood that the Roman Catholic Church would profess. Remember? He saw the blood of the saints. How did he see? What did he see? Let's see what John saw when he saw the blood of the saints and the blood of the martyrs. 6,000 Catholic priests abused. 16,000 children missing since 1980. 500,000 children taken from families and forced into Catholic institutions and abused. 4,000 children sexually abused in Australia since 1990. Hundreds of thousands of children abused in Catholic and Protestant care in Germany between 1950 and 1970. Pope John Paul II ignored abuse of 2,000 boys in Austria. 700,000 men and women were killed in Croatia by the Catholic Church in the 1970s. Now, we thought that, at least I thought, that there was a civil war between Croatia and Bosnia. If you've heard, if you understand history.
Yeah, we had just talked about that when we was in Arizona. We thought it was.
But it wasn't. That was a lie. The Roman Catholic Church were killing and torturing these people. Hundreds of Catholic priests abused children in the Philippines between 1980 and 2000. 800,000 people were massacred in Rwanda. That was done with the support of the Roman Catholic Church. We all have seen that movie, Hotel Rwanda? That's what that was. They were funded by, those guerrillas were funded by the Roman Catholic Church.
And that never came out. It blamed it on the
The Hutus and the Hutus or something like that, right? Tutus or something.
They never said who was actually behind it. They were just hacking people. If you was on the road walking. But remember that video we saw when the kids was going around for prayer and the Catholic priest was slapping them?
Oh, yeah.
And he pushed one kid down and kicked them.
Right.
And I was like, he was serious. You know
Right.
how you have a prayer line? It was a prayer line. And the kids, he would pull their hair and
He would
throw
pull
them.
their hair and throw them,
And he would kick them.
Yeah.
A baby
And
was
the
crying.
kid-
He was like, bam.
Remember the boy who did this?
Yeah.
And he grabbed his hands and started punching them and pushing them
In the head. It was somebody doing, I guess,
Mhm.
a prayer, and they secretly recorded it on their phone.
And they go to this thing every single Sunday.
It was mass, yeah.
Thousands of children and adults abused in Catholic care homes in Scotland in the 60s and 70s. This is what John is saying, the blood of saints and martyrs. 300,000 babies stolen from mothers by the Catholic Church in Spain between 1960 and 1990, and thousands of children tortured and abused in Catholic schools in Switzerland from 1930 and 1970. Need I speak to you of the 30 Years' War in Germany, which was mainly instigated by the Jesuits in order to deprive the Protestants of the right of free religious worship secured to them by the Treaty of Augsburg, or of the Irish Rebellion, of the inhumane butchery of about 15 million Indians in South America, Mexico, and Cuba by Spanish papists. That's the Glorious Reformation, 1838. The Jesuits, the Roman Catholic Church. Identity number 8. We're going to go to Revelation chapter 17, and we're going to read verse 3, because we kind of skipped over that for a reason. Read that.
Revelation chapter 17, verse 3. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns.
All right, so this beast that is the same red dragon that we read about in Revelation 12. Revelation 12 tells us about the dragon, which is Satan. Let's go back to Revelation 12, because I think I had you stop at verse 2. So why does this dragon have 7 heads and 10 horns? The same beast that's in Revelation, the 13th chapter. Read verse 3 and 4.
Revelation chapter 12, verse 3.
Mm-hmm.
And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head.
Mm-hmm.
And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born.
All right, so as you can tell, this is the 1611 scripture.
But do you know, it keeps talking about the red dragon,
Mhm.
But China has for their New Year, where it's the red dragon, they put money, they give money toward the offering,
Mm-hmm.
and it's still the red dragon, so they know that they're worshiping.
Satan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So this dragon waited for the woman to be child. Who is the child? Skip down. Let's read Revelation 12 and 5.
Everybody know, we just didn't know. We was the only ones who wasn't clued in.
Right.
But the whole world, everybody else knew.
everybody else knew but Israel.
Yeah.
The true Israel. All right, let's read Revelation 12 and 5.
Revelation chapter 12, verse 5. And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto the Most High, and to his throne.
All right. I think it's just cool to have the old 1611 scriptures up there. So that's what I'm going to use for next week's teaching. We use the entire teaching on 1611, on the scriptures on 1611. Okay? Alright, so this child whom Satan wanted to kill and devour was born, was Yeshua. We all know that. The Roman Empire, so this red dragon, the red is the Roman Empire, and the Roman Empire wants to kill anything that has to do with Yeshua. Right?
Yeah. That is a card said, Elder, in reality, the Roman Catholic leaders are responsible for over 1 billion lives when we count slavery and the conquest of America.
Yes. The Roman Catholic Church is responsible for billions of lives. What about the blood of the prophets? All right, let's go to Revelation 18, and we're going to read verse 24. Let's read that.
Revelation chapter 18, verse 24. And in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints and of all that were slain upon the earth.
And all that were slain upon the earth. So, and they think this cannot be referenced to the Roman Catholic Church because this church wasn't around to kill the prophets of old. Right? So that's all this can be, because the Roman Catholic Church were not around to kill the prophets. We also have a definite mother, and daughter in the description of Babylon, which points to another church who gave birth to the other churches. This is pointing to the Roman Catholic Church. But what about the blood of the prophets? Let's look and see what Yeshua has to say. Go to Matthew, the 23rd chapter. Matthew 23, and we're going to start at verse 31. Next week's teaching is going to be on the time between the testaments, between Malachi and Matthew, 400 years of history that we're going to do in a teaching. Our next week's teaching is going to start, we're going to start at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Our Friday lesson will start at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Matthew 23 and 31. Let's read.
Matthew chapter 23, verse 31. Wherefore ye be witnesses unto yourselves that ye are the children of them which killed the prophets.
Ye are the children of them which killed the prophets. Next verse.
Fill ye up then the measure of your fathers, ye serpents, ye generation of vipers. How can ye escape the damnation of hell? Verse 34. Wherefore, behold, I send unto you prophets and wise men and scribes, and some of them ye shall kill and crucify, and some of them ye shall scourge in your synagogues and persecute them from city to city. That upon you may come all the righteous blood shed upon the earth, from the blood of the righteous Abel unto the blood of Zacharias, son of Barachias, whom ye slew between the temple and the altar.
All right, let's conclude. Get to a conclusion. All right? let's get some scriptures also with this conclusion. The Roman Empire, right? So the Roman Empire was called the world from its extent. All right, let's go to Luke 2:1.
What was that, Matthew, what?
It was Matthew 23:31-35. Luke chapter 2, verse 1. Let's read.
Luke chapter 2, verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed.
All right, so they were called from the world. Also, there was represented, Rome was represented by the legs of iron in Nebuchadnezzar's vision. So we're going to go to Daniel, the 2nd chapter. Daniel 2. And we're going to read 33 and then verse 40. Okay, let's read.
Daniel chapter 2, verse 33. His legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Verse 40. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces, it subdueth all things. And as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise.
All right, break in pieces and bruise. Go over to Daniel 7. The terrible beast in Daniel's vision. Okay? This is the Roman Empire. We're going to read Daniel 7:7 and then Daniel 7:19.
Daniel chapter 7, verse 7. After this I saw in the night vision, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns.
And it had 10 horns, right? It's like how the way they spell certain things back then. It was kind of hilarious. All right, let's get down to verse 19, and let's read verse 19.
Verse 19. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet.
All right, so that is the terrible beast in Daniel's vision. And then Rome being the capital city. We're going to go over to Acts 18:2.
While he's getting that, ARW say, Elder Sir, how do you tie the Rothschild and the Roman Catholic Church together? Because they both have the red dragon as symbolism.
All right. What group of people did the Rothschilds come from? Huh? We had a teaching, when we did the teaching from Esau, Edom and Esau. Who were the Rothschilds? Yes? Amalek. Right? So that's how we can tie Amalek, because Amalek was from where?
Amalek was Esau's grandson.
Right, Amalek was Esau's grandson. So, Amalek, we identified who Amalek was through, check out the teacher who was Esau.
Yeah, even we realized that they were, Amalek was the part of they were the one, Haman and Esther.
Right, Haman and Esther. And then we tied them, we saw that they were Amalek because they would be the ones who would be the world power, the rulers of the world power.
And we know
so your Caesars and everything, those were Amalek. Your dukes, those were all Amalek. They were all Amalek.
But not only that, what does the red dragon mean? It's the devil. We know that Satan is their father.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we tie them together. We know who they serve.
Right.
They're not serving Yeshua.
Right. And when we did that teaching, I think we did another teaching after that too, about Amalek.
But Amalek is on top. Amalek, the blood, Amalek, well, because we know Esau had many sons and grandsons, like all different women.
Mm-hmm.
But Amalek was chosen to be on top, just like King David had 4 wives. He had different sons. But look, Solomon, Bathsheba from Solomon, was chosen to be the king lineage, the bloodline of the king.
Right.
So it's the same thing. You choose one of the families who's supposed to be what? The smartest or more, whatever.
Right.
And you put them on top, and they rule the other parts of the family, who does what. But we have to know that they all, well, not all of them, because that's Esau, but some of them was part of Japheth as well, because it's
Correct.
one of the
You have
so-called
a Chinese family that's in the 13.
They married in 2.
Acts 18:2.
Acts chapter 18, verse 2. And found a certain Israelite named Aquila, born in Pontus, lately come from Italy with his wife Priscilla, because that Claudius had commanded all Israelites to depart from Rome, and came unto them.
So, military affairs of Rome. The Bible with the Roman Empire gives us the military affairs of Rome. Let's go to Matthew, the 8th chapter.
And it's because they both are Edomite.
Correct.
Rothschild.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But we can identify them as far as the leaders of the Catholic Church being Amalek, and the leaders of the world being Amalek, and the rest of the Catholic Church being Idumean or Esau. Matthew 8 and 8. Read.
Matthew chapter 8, verse 8. The centurion answered and said, Lord, I am not worthy that thou shouldest come under my roof, but speak the word only, and my servant shall be healed.
Mm-hmm.
For I am a man under authority, having soldiers under me. And I say to this man, go, and he goeth, and to another, come, and he cometh, and to my servant, do this, and he doeth it.
All right, soldiers are not allowed to entangle themselves with earthly cares. All right? And the reason why I'm going through this is because the Bible kind of has a Roman influence on it because of the fact that when they were writing, they were visual and they were seeing what the Roman soldiers were doing, and they attributed what the Roman soldiers were doing with spiritual warfare. Okay? Let's go with 2 Timothy 2 and 4. In fact, the next two is 2 Timothy 2 and 4, 2 Timothy 2 and 3. Hardship and soldiers fight, not caring about earthly idols. There was this letter that I found, and I think I accidentally X'd out of it, where a Roman soldier was writing home and asking for different things from his mother. They found this little, it was on a papyrus reed, and they found it, and they kind of interpreted it, and it was a Roman soldier back in, I think it was 77 AD, and he was writing a letter to his mother about sending him some items or something. It was kind of interesting. 2 Timothy 2:4.
2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 4. No man that warreth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who hath chosen him to be a soldier.
All right, let's skip up to verse 2.
2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 3. Thou therefore endure hardness as a good soldier of Yeshua HaMashiach.
Endure hardness. Endure. And we've been saying that for I don't know how many weeks yet.
Well, you said how they did the spiritual warfare after the Roman soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
Is that why when people like paint or draw like a picture of the armor, it looks like a Roman soldier armor?
Right, because of the influence from the Roman soldiers. Right? Alright, the soldier's special comrade was shared with his toils and dangers. Go over to Philippians 2 and 25. Romans 2 and 25. I'm sorry, Philippians 2 and 25. Alright. Let's read.
Philippians chapter 2, verse 25. Yet I suppose it necessary to send to you Epaphroditus, my brother, and companion in labor, and fellow soldier, but your messenger and he that ministered to my wants.
Alright, and dangers of sleeping. Roman soldiers and sleeping. Right? We're going to go to Matthew, the 28th chapter. And we're going to read verses 13 and 14. Alright, let's read.
Matthew chapter 28, verse 13.
Mm-hmm.
Saying, Say ye his disciples came by night and stole him away while we slept.
Mm-hmm.
And if this come to the governor's ears, we will persuade him and secure you.
Right. Okay. Criminals delivered over to Roman soldiers for execution. Right? So like I said, the authors of the Bible, when they were inspired by the Holy Spirit, because they were living in this time frame, we get a lot of references to what and how the Romans were. Okay. Matthew 27, 26 and 27. Let's read.
Matthew chapter 27, verse 26. Then released he Barabbas unto them, and when he had scourged Yeshua, he delivered him to be crucified.
Mm-hmm.
Then the soldiers of the governor took Yeshua into the common hall, and gathered unto him the whole band of soldiers.
Right, so the soldiers were the ones that would do the delivering of the criminals for execution, yes.
Was that normal for the Romans to scourge somebody and then crucify him?
No. It was either or.
Oh, okay, but the reason why it happened to Yeshua, both of them, was because he was trying to, like, give the people a chance not to go through with it or something?
You mean Pilate?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was always prophesied as well.
Correct. It was prophesied as well. So just like when Octavius Caesar decided that he was going to have all the families go back to their place of origin, that was prophesied. And Pontius Pilate, even though he did not know that what he was doing was fulfilling prophecy, he thought by scourging Yeshua almost to death would satisfy the Pharisees, but it didn't. Garments were taken off of the executed, and the garments were given to the soldiers. Let's go over to John 19 and 23. Y'all can have y'all conversation at another time. John 19:23.
John chapter 19, verse 23. Then the soldiers, when they had crucified Yeshua, took his garment and made 4 parts, to every soldier a part, and also his coat. Now the coat was without seam, woven from the top throughout.
All right. Prisoners were also chained to soldiers for safety. We're going to go to Acts 21 and 33, and then Acts 12 and 6. Yes.
Do they sometimes still do that today? Chain prisoners to the guards?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, I guess.
No, they don't.
When they transport them?
No, they don't.
On the planes?
No, they are chained to each other. They're not chained to the guards. They're chained to each other. Chained to each other.
All right, let's read. Acts 21:33.
Acts chapter 21, verse 33. Then the chief captain came near, and took him and commanded him to be bound with 2 chains. And he demanded who he was and what he had done.
All right. So let's skip over to Acts 12 and 6.
Acts chapter 12, verse 6. And when Herod would have brought him forth, the same night Peter was sleeping between 2 soldiers, bound with 2 chains, and the keepers before the door kept the prison.
All right. So, citizenship. This will be our last scripture, Acts 22 and 28. We've had it before, but thought we'd just end with this. All right, let's read.
Acts chapter 22, verse 28. And the chief captain answered, with a great sum I obtained this freedom. And Paul said, but I was free-born.
I was free-born. Because they have rejected the truth and have killed the prophets, the Most High, the Catholic Church, has killed millions and billions of the Most High's people. That same condemnation is going to fall on them. Next Friday is either going to be soul ties or sexual perversion. Our Friday lessons will start at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Next Shabbat, in between the Testaments. In between Malachi and Luke. So we're going to find out. Yes, Luke should be the first book in the Bible, not Matthew. I mean, the first book of the New Testament should be Luke. All right, we're going to find out the origins of the Pharisees, the origins of the Sadducees, the origins of the Zealots, the seculars. We're going to go in depth on those sects at that time and find out what was going on outside of Alexander the Great, because we already know what was going on with Alexander the Great. Okay? With that being said, that's really going to conclude our lesson as far as the captivities of the Bible. Alright? As we move forward to get to the main reason why these teachings were going to be created, and that's the slavery captivities. The American, the Oriental, the Arab, the American, the transatlantic. There's one more. I can't remember off the top of my head. No. Yes, ma'am.
Are we gonna go through like each of the 12 tribes and their slavery? Does that make sense? Okay.
We won't have to do that. Naphtali was enslaved by they were enslaved by the Japanese.
So they're all gonna just be covered in whatever one we do.
Not all of the 12 tribes, because our focus is going to be on Judah, Benjamin, and Levi.
Okay.
We're going to focus on the Latino tribes and the Gadite tribes in the teaching. And in that teaching, we'll probably throw some information about Naphtali in there also.
Okay.
Is there much known about that captivity or?
Sure, if you read, yes. Which way? What are you talking about?
With the Naphtali and the.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of information about what happened to the people in the Pacific Rim. No, that's not it. That's not the Pacific Rim. The people who are in the Fiji Islands and Hawaiians and all. There's a lot of information out there. Okay? It's just putting it together. Yes. Any other questions? What we got on the chat? Comments? No comments? No questions? All right, we're going to wait for a few moments because we're on a delay.
Oh, no, I don't do that.
So as we continue with these lessons, it's going to be more on history for the next several weeks. We're still going to have some scriptures. When we go through the captivities, especially Deuteronomy 28th chapter, still going to have some scriptures, but it's going to be more of a history class. All right, so join us for live stream next week, our new times, and we give all the glory and praise to Most High Ahaya, Ushaya, and Wawawa. We got to read Psalms 1. We're going to end, like we do every single teaching, with Psalms chapter 1 Psalms chapter 1 in its entirety. Alright, blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor standeth in the feet of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree, planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. The ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff which the wind drives away. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knoweth the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. Yeah.
Issachar said, elder, in Acts 11:26, when it says there were called Christians, what is the Hebrew or Greek word used in the oldest manuscript of that verse? Some people say it should be Messianic
Messianic Jews?
instead of Christian.
No.
That's
Wait, I can't see your face.
You can't see them?
I can't see your face. Yeah, Messianic. Right? No, they were called Christians.
Messianic was another thing.
Yeah, Messianic Jews, they're satanic. There is no such thing as a Messianic Jew, even though they call it. But you can't be a Jewish person and believe in the Messiah. That's not possible.
And Jewish don't have anything to do with Israelites.
Correct.
It was Judaism. It was a religion that
Correct.
they converted to. So it's
Correct. But when the Bible and the New Testament says Christians, That is accurate because that's what Nero classified them as when he was,
Pre-Constantine.
yes, when he was killing them.
Pre-Constantine.
You had to label them somehow.
All right? If you have found this teaching educational, please like and subscribe and share for
future teachings. Make sure you also hit the notification bell to get notified when we go live.
All right. We'll see you all next week.
Juan
Juan Yasharala.